Hi guys, Mark Devoe. Welcome back to this channel, Conscious Time, and welcome, where we discuss things in this channel, navigating this world through the eyes of awareness, dropping judgment, dropping guilt, dropping doubt, all the negative attributes that keep us separate, the illusion of separation from God. These videos are meant to be uplifting, to bridge spirituality with pragmatic or real world applications, as it were, so you can walk away and actually experience these things so you can verify it for yourself. You don't necessarily have to take it for my word for it. You can actually go and apply these things to verify it. And before I do continue, if you do find these videos add value, if you just arrived here, please do, I'm assuming it will add value, so please do like, share, subscribe, and I'd be appreciative. Hopefully it will get out to more people and add value and give them more peace, harmony, etc., etc. So let's jump into this video, and I wanted to follow on from my previous video on anxiety. I can't remember what the actual title was. If you're having a meltdown, I'm just looking here, my last video was based on David R. Hawkins, his map of consciousness, and if you're going to have a meltdown, and how you can help yourself if you are having an actual stressful anxiety panic / meltdown. And I wanted to follow on from that to say, how does anxiety actually come about? As I've mentioned before, I've got a master's degree in stress and anxiety. Well, I've got an experience. It rears its head, that I've mentioned from time to time, and they're amazing learning curves. It goes hand in hand. If you pay attention and are aware, your stress and anxiety is a wake-up call to transition into a better life. So honor that. So let's jump into this. So this is going to be this will be based on David R. Hawkins. We're going to end off on a quote again, or this time from A Course in Miracles. So it's going to be pragmatic applications you can do in this world, and it's going to be we're going to end off on a higher spiritual calling, as it were, and how that affects anxiety. So let's jump into it. So what causes anxiety, and I want people that are listening to this, whether you are really suffering with major anxiety, take it from me, it doesn't have to control your life. And if you pay attention and are aware and drop judgment and guilt, you will transition into the most amazing being. I have experienced that stress and anxiety, and I've also lived and live in that peace of God. Obviously, life gets better if we don't pay attention, and we can get sucked into the stresses of life. But I've also experienced that peace of God, which literally passes all understanding, in the most we're in situations where I found myself where I should technically or theoretically be the most stressed. I've actually found that peace of God, which is beyond words. So let's jump into it. And the main thing about anxiety, and to understand, is conflicting thoughts. So if you want to have a walkway or takeaway, it's conflicting thoughts and being present, and single-mindedness, or not having these conflicting thoughts will be your shortcut to getting rid of anxiety, or not falling into the trap of anxiety. But let's unpack this a little bit further. And if I can give you real world applications or examples, my weekends sometimes can be more stressful, or I can actually be more anxious, because I'm actually trying to fit more into my weekend sometimes, because I'm trying to relax. I'm trying to spend time with my child, my wife, my family together. I want to exercise. I want to relax. I want to do projects. And sometimes by the time, and then I've got Monday coming ahead, and the proverbial Monday, where if you're working a job or a career, whatever the case may be, you're going to jump into Monday with that projected into the future. So that's what anxiety is about, really. It's projecting into the future. You've got fearful thoughts of the future. So as you can see, that's a real world takeaway in my example, that I can actually be more stressful and anxious on a weekend because I'm trying to fit these things. So I've got conflicting thoughts. For instance, I should be relaxing, not doing this. Or why, if it's a job, for instance, I should not be in this job. I should be doing something else. This is what is causing the conflict. You've got two opposing thought systems. And if you pay attention to this, and some of my videos I've mentioned about body scan, when you scan the body and mentally, and you just feel your body as a whole, you can actually feel that energy building up, that And I have literally felt it on many occasions, on heightened anxiety episodes, where I've got these conflicting thoughts. I'm trying to achieve certain things, but I should also be relaxing. So there's a lot going on. You can actually feel that energy building up. And I mentioned before, check out that video on a meltdown. It's an energetic field, and how David R. Hawkins talks about that. So let's just carry on. I just keep track on my notes as I normally do. So some examples, if I mentioned, I need to earn I need to earn more money as an example. This job is killing my soul. That's a conflicting thought. So you're pulled in two different directions. Or maybe it's in, a career conflict. I must stay here versus this doesn't align with me. Relationship could be, I love them, but I'm losing myself. So conflict in relationships can be very debilitating, and if you don't resolve that. A spiritual conflict could be, I trust God, but you want to trust God, but you also want to, you feel like you need to control things. So it's going to be different for different people. There are a lot of variables, there are a lot of nuances, but at the end of the day, it's going to be that conflicting, those conflicting emotions and conflicting thoughts. And I'm going to just stick around, because I'll give you, answers to these debilitating emotional stresses and anxiety that can actually take control of our lives and affect our lives greatly, as I'm sure a lot of you that maybe suffer from anxiety or have suffered can vouch for that. And to be honest, the most of the world is living in some form of anxiety. It's either low level, you're not even aware of it. Unless you're living in that pure presence and peace of God, you are living in a low level and anxious state. You might just be so used to it, you're just not aware of it. So, and that goes back to, I'm not going to talk about the ego, but it goes back to the ego, which is that false illusory thought system. It's the separation from God. So unless, and I'm jumping ahead right now, but the highest calling is to live by the Holy Spirit, to live with the mind of God, which you share with God. When you tap into that, you'll have the power and the peace and the presence of God at your fingertips all the time. But obviously we're living in this three-dimensional world, and sometimes we get sucked into it and the stresses and everything. So we are forming different levels of that anxiety. So I hope that's making sense and tracking. It looks like I've covered quite a few things in such a short space of time. I hope this has made a bit of sense. I want to end off on A Course in Miracles quote. So this is going to be on the highest spiritual calling, on a real world, tangible basis. Being present is going to be present with what you are doing. Sometimes I find myself watching the time. I should be doing this, block out certain times, then be present in that moment. Going back to how I mentioned, sometimes I'm more stressful on the weekend, and actually sometimes it comes to Monday, and as Monday and the week continues, I find myself getting less stressful, because I'm actually focused on one thing in my work and what I'm doing, not my thoughts jumping all around. Sometimes in work I do, because I've got too many things that I'm trying to do with calling, emailing clients, or I should be doing this. That's when, again, you've got conflicting thoughts, because you're not being present. You're saying you should be doing this, but your higher self is actually saying, no, but do this instead. And this will tie in quite closely with this quote or this statement from A Course in Miracles, which I mentioned before. It's a curriculum, it's a book, it's beyond words. It's a profound book that you have to experience. And this is a short statement I'm going to read here, but I'll put a link to the full chapter, which I would highly recommend going to read that. So it's one of the a little short take from this is: the way out of conflict between two opposing thought systems is clearly to choose one and relinquish the other. If you identify with your thought system, and what they mean there is the thought system of the ego, and you cannot escape this. So let me go back there. If you identify with your thought system and you cannot escape this, and if you accept two thought systems which are in complete disagreement, peace of mind is impossible. I'll unpack that. Let me just read on. If you teach both, which you will surely do as long as you accept both, you are teaching conflict and learning it. All right, so read that whole chapter, but this just demonstrates what I've just been saying on a tangible, real world application. When you have those conflicting thoughts, I should be doing this, but you're doing this and you feel like you should be doing that. Being present, accepting where you are. Let's say you are in a job that you don't like, or a relationship that you don't like, whatever the case may be. Find presence in that moment. Accept where you are now, because you actually are there for a reason. But if you keep resisting it, you're creating that conflict, and you're creating that resistance, and what you resist persists. If you accept, and I've experienced this, and if you accept, I've been in jobs when I was younger, so this maybe goes out to a lot of younger people as well. They feel so much pressure. I should be doing this, should be doing that. We all do that, but I found when I was younger, and maybe a lot of young people do that, they feel like they shouldn't be doing that. Accept where you are in this present moment. You have chosen to be there, consciously or unconsciously. You are there for a reason, but once you accept that, and you make peace with that present moment that you find yourself in, the situation will naturally absolve. It will either get better, because you are applying yourself better, or it will naturally transition into a better opportunity if it's a career or job or whatever the case may be. The more you resist that, the more anxiety, stress you create. And if you move on from that job, you'll just take it to the next job. Sometimes maybe it does need a little bit of that energy, that uncomfortable energy to move, but you've got to pay attention to that. You don't want to move on in the wrong circumstance, because you can carry that over. Being present, accepting where you are, resolves a lot of inner turmoil. So yeah, let me not waffle on there. Let me just unpack this Course in Miracles again. So basically what it's saying is, if you identify with your thought system, and it means your thought system is the based on the ego, you cannot escape this, and you can't escape your thought system. And then if you accept two thought systems, which is basically saying you have the thought system which is guided by God and the Holy Spirit, and those two are in complete disagreement. You can't live in two of them. They conflict. So that's why it says peace of mind is impossible. So if you teach both, which you will surely do, as long as you accept both. So if you're accepting the thought system of the ego and you're accepting the thought system of the Holy Spirit, but you're not making that actual choice, you are going to be teaching conflict and learning it, because what you teach, and this is a concept from Course in Miracles, what you teach, you learn. So it's a bit of a side note there, but the point is, and if you want to go back to that quote that I read, is if you're living in two thought systems, you're going to have conflict. That's why the highest calling is to be guided and allow and give your thought system over to the Holy Spirit. And I've experienced this. You will be of single-mindedness and you will have no conflict. So I hope that has made sense on a real-world application. Be present with what you are doing. Don't jump around to, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. Highest calling is give your thought systems over to the Holy Spirit, and you'll be guided in that peace and harmony. Right, so I hope that is tracked. Please, do like, share, subscribe, and share. If you find this value, give me your thoughts, sharings on your own journey, experiences, and we'll check you on the next one.